We'll be in Genesis chapter 37. A couple of things coming up. The kids barbecue chicken fundraiser. Again, if you haven't bought a ticket yet, find somebody in our room, buy them from them that has some kids going to camp. Graduation recognition. So even if you're college students that's graduating, please fill out the paperwork so we can recognize you on May 12th. And then Senior Saints Luncheon, you can't go to that, so don't even sign up. So,
some of us are closer than others.
What's that?
Some of us are closer than others.
Same.
What do they call that? Like, you could be the yoke fellowship, like you're in training to become a senior saint at some age. Start to get to go to lunches, see how things are done, things like that.
I just go to chaperone.
Chaperone, they do need some chaperones.
Your cane?
It's recording. All right.
Canceled.
So favorite color, got a couple of blues, a pink, a beige. Who's beige?
Yeah, I said it for that kid. Y'all all do the same
No,
color.
if you spelled
Khaki?
it B-A-G-E.
Red, black. Who's black? Black.
Interesting.
But you're always so colorful when you come in.
Black's just like a classic color. It goes with everything.
Gotcha. And the nurse, that usually what you wear, the black.
I'm not a nurse.
Oh. Oh no, you are. Well, what is what is the official term?
I'm an X-ray tech.
Yeah, X-ray tech. So, and then purple. That was you, wasn't it? Purple?
No, I was blue.
Oh, I thought you were purple.
I thought he put beige.
Beige.
Never do that.
So we are, if you haven't figured it out yet, talking about Joseph and his dream coat, Technicolor dream coat. No, so he did have a colorful coat that he wore. He was set apart. He was special to his father and his mother. He was the only boy born of Jacob and Leah, and who he wanted to marry the first, and then he had to marry the older daughter first, and then finally had a son, so he kind of set him apart and blessed him and liked him more than all the others. So he was, as you can imagine, had some dysfunction in his family, and we're going to look at that today. But a couple more questions to get us started. What are some great memories you have with your siblings, if you have siblings? Anybody got a good story?
My brother and I always went on lots of adventures. We always made up things that were going on in life. I don't know. It was like a alternate reality we lived in, I think. But it was fun. Like, we just always had some kind of
Before virtual reality was a thing, you were
everything
dreaming it?
was like our swing set was, I don't know, we were just always creative with stuff.
Me and Seth used to get walkie-talkies and go around the house like we were trying to be spies, and we would do it all the time.
We scared our grandma. She's still alive, so it's okay. It's fine.
It's good.
You gotta give more context than that.
It was Thanksgiving, 19,
Well, yeah.
Some time of life. It was Thanksgiving, and he was coming out to see our room. That's when we shared room, and we hid in our bathroom. We said, "Wah!" And yeah, we got in trouble. It was fun.
Our reservation was so boring, so we would put stuff in the middle of the road. The cops would come and they would chase us. We would run from them towards the mountains.
Adrian didn't do that.
Like, what type of stuff we putting in the road?
People just threw trash on the side of the road. So one time we found a big oven, like a stove, put it on the road.
In the middle of the road.
And we'd be standing there, and the cops would come up, they'd get out, and they'll just chase us because they had nothing better to do too. They'll chase us all over.
My
I'm gonna
phone
find
is
this oven in the road today and chase the kid.
this wasn't with Andrea's friend, or this wasn't with their sister, but her friends, and they got like this big long stick and held it across the road and made it a toll and made people pay to go through.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Most of mine with my family, my brother and sister, I don't know. Great memories. There's a lot of camping. That was like our family vacations, was camping a lot, so probably that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's a great memory. So so back in the day, there was a thing. Oh man, I gotta explain. Yeah, there was a thing called Blockbuster, and
Oh, yeah.
so you get movies, but you could also rent like the Nintendo. And when the Nintendo came out, we would rent it over the weekend, and then you could rent games and play it, and then we'd have to turn it back in. And I remember we went one day, and they had no Nintendos left in stock, and my mom was like, "We're going to Toys R Us and we're gonna buy one. We're gonna have our own." And that was like the most exciting day of our life. And then, when did they really get on your nerves? When didn't they? Me and my brother used to fight like every day.
When when Lauren would come over, my brother would not leave us alone. Like, he would, I had that little chain you could lock your door with, and we lock him out all the time.
I think Addison in that stage also.
So that was terrible. Addison would kick you for no reason. Like in the head, kick you.
When we were in 8th grade, we wrote senior letters to ourselves, and in my senior letter, Savannah wrote me a letter talking about how Addison got on her nerves so bad.
Yeah,
She was like, "I have something to confess to you."
She's a lot less annoying now.
All right, so kind of the introduction. People want to be treated fairly. In truth, we would prefer to be treated better than what we deserve. At the same time, we are often troubled when we see people being treated better than us and better than what we think they deserve. This is when jealousy comes in. Jealousy is dangerous because it corrupts one's heart, usually leads to more tragic sin. The story of Joseph and his brothers attests to this truth. In today's session, we'll see how jealousy led to an act of intense hatred by Jacob's sons towards their brother Joseph. And so, turn to Genesis chapter 37. We're going to start in verses 5 through 8. So to kind of bridge the gap, the main character is now switching to Joseph from his father Jacob, who is Israel. Now Joseph has become the main character in the story of Genesis as we go forward. And again, Joseph was kind of the special, the favorite child. He was given extra. He was set apart as extra. He was the youngest boy as well. And so the youngest always is kind of runs along with the pack, but he's usually younger than everybody, can't do everything. And so the older brothers don't want to hang out with him too much. And then his dad gives him a jacket to really symbolize how special he is. And so I don't think so much Joseph himself, even when I was doing reading some of the commentary on this and everything, that he kind of put it in their face. He's just kind of ignorant of being the youngest child and what that really means and being his place. So when he shares about like his dreams and the different things like that, there wasn't like this idea of like proud thing. It was just, he was excited. He wanted them to know. He wanted them to understand what God was doing and things like that. Before we read it, there's two different definitions for dream. What are the two definitions? Like
Vision?
Yeah, so you got like a vision, an idea, like that kind of thing, and then a literal dream, right? And so one is kind of like an aspiration. You got a dream of becoming something when you're older, or a job that you want to have, or a certain way that you want your family to be, or a house that you want to live in. You know, those type of dreams where they're just kind of aspirations, what you want. And then there's the literal dream when you sleep at night and you have a dream. What we're talking about here is not like he desires these type of things or he made these things up. These are literal dreams that God has given him that are visions of what is actually going to take place. And so want to make sure that it was clear that these are from God and that they're literal dreams and not just aspirations that he wants to be. So, all right. So someone could read verses 5 through 8.
And Joseph had a dream. When he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. There we were binding sheaves of grain in the field. Suddenly my sheaf stood up, and your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf. Are you really going to reign over us?" His brothers asked him. "Are you really going to rule us?" So they hated him even more because of his dream and what he had said.
So again, Joseph has a dream. It's given by God. And in this dream, can you show the next slide? It's kind of like this. And so the way the farmer will work, again, they don't have tractors. They don't have all the stuff we have today. And so the best way to pull the grain or to the wheat or whatever they're growing is to bind it together and then cut it one time. And otherwise, if you just cut it all, it's just lying on the ground and then you got to bundle it all together. They didn't have what we have today. And so that's how it would be. And all those grains are bowing down to one in the middle, who is Joseph. And so he's basically telling them that his brothers, his family, everybody's going to bow down to him, which he, again, I mean, if you're the one they're all going to bow down to, you're going to be a little excited. You're going to be a little proud of that. And so he shares it in thinking that this is a good thing, but his brothers do not like it. They hated him even more. It drove a bigger wedge between his siblings and himself. And his brothers, they say, "Do you really... are you really going to rule us?" So rule and reign are two words that he uses here. And when we think about that, that's kind of like the kingdom of God, right? When Jesus talked about the kingdom of God coming in, he talks about there's going to be this rule and this reign, that God is on his throne and he's ruling over this nation, over this world, and he is the one that is in control. So rule and reign over everything. And so he's going to be placed in a high place of power. This is where Joseph is going to end up. He doesn't know what this looks like. He doesn't know where it's going to be. And where it ends up is probably not even on his radar of the area or place or the title that he gets in the future. But he knows that God is going to put him in a place where he is going to rule and reign, and his brothers and his family are going to be under that. And he shares it naively, thinking that they're going to be excited for him, that this is going to happen for them. And the brothers say, "Really? You're really going to rule over us?" Usually when you hear somebody say "really," it's like in a sarcastic way, right? Really? Like or you're annoying somebody saying it a lot. And so he's like, "Are you really going to rule over us?" Like, no, this is not going to happen. You're the little brother. You're going to not, we would never let that happen. We're not going to let that happen. And so in the end, their hatred for him even more, that is their hatred for him. So there was already hatred there in their heart, and now it's even more. It's exceedingly, it's becoming more because of the dream that he had and because he shared it. So Joseph's brother hated was fueled even further when Joseph had a second dream, which we're not going to read, in verses 9 to 11. And he talks about the moon and the sun and the stars bowing down. And so he has this second dream, and again, he shares it, and finally his dad is like, "Dude, just stop sharing these dreams with everybody. Keep it to yourself. Keep it between you and God. Like, it's not going to end well for you. Just keep it a matter of your mind. Remember what God is setting you apart for. You don't have to share everything share every detail with everybody, but just follow what God has for you." And again, most likely, Jacob is saying this because he had many visions. He had many dreams of what God was going to do and what God is going to do through him. And he's like, just ponder upon that. Remember that. Remember what God is doing in your life during this time. So the first question, what are the advantage and disadvantages of sharing an aspiration with others? What's an advantage of sharing an aspiration with somebody?
Accountability.
Accountability, yeah.
You can encourage, well, I guess kind of accountability, but encouragement.
Mm-hmm. Or if somebody has already arrived where you aspire to be, then maybe they can help you.
Guidance.
Yeah, guidance and direction and things like that.
Inspiration too
Mm-hmm.
for them.
And what about disadvantages? How could it go wrong? What?
Jealousy.
Yeah, the jealousy or negativity that comes, like, yeah, you're probably never going to become that or be that or achieve that. So somebody could put doubt or make you not aspire to it. It seems like, I don't know, maybe just because I'm a little bit older, but I think about, like, as a kid, I aspired for a lot of things, but now it's like you kind of, I don't know if it's just you just get older and realistic, or if it's that you've done other things and so now you don't aspire for other things. But I think there's always this idea that we should have aspirations, that we should always try to do better. And I use Hunter a lot as an example, but I mean, he went back to school to become something better, and his family and everything like that. Like, he could have just did the status quo, did what he needed to provide for his family, but instead he aspired for something different, and so he started over, in a sense, and still working through that. But yeah, in that aspiration, I'm sure maybe some people did doubt you or say, nah, I don't know if you should go back to school. And then so he posts every time he gets his 4.0, so everybody can see.
I'm so proud. I don't have to all the time.
Got it written all over the walls.
got a card you just send out. No. But there are, and then, so it is, it's like that tricky place where it's like, how much do I reveal, how much do I not reveal? And I think that's where having good relationships, good friendships, is good, because there are some people that need to hold us accountable, in a good way and a bad way. A good way to achieve those, and a good way, like, I don't know, like if I said to Harrison, I would like to run like a 5-minute mile tomorrow. You're going to be like, Bo, that's probably not going to happen, but we could work on it, right? It's going to be nice. But is 5-minute mile fast?
Yes.
Oh, all right. So that would be a good achievement for me.
I know.
But like, you need some people that are realistic, because if you set out and you fail at everything you try to do, it'll be difficult in your life. Like, it'll just weigh on you and things like that. So yeah, so he has this dream, he shares it, and again, his brothers hate him even more. It makes even more hardship. And so to kind of bridge the gap, what we're not going to read in the middle here, his brothers are gone, and he has another vision, he shares it, and then his brothers are gone. They're all shepherds, basically. That's what all the boys do, and they're feeding the flock in one area of Shechem, and then Joseph comes to his dad, and his dad's like, why aren't you with the rest of everybody? They're in Shechem, go meet up with them and get to where they are, and meet up with them and help them out with what they're doing. And so we pick up with Genesis chapter 37, 18 to 22. Someone can read that.
When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to kill him. Here comes the dreamer, they said. Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We can tell our father. A wild animal has eaten him, then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. 22?
22.
Oh, but when Reuben heard the scheme, he came to Joseph's rescue. Let's not kill him, he said. Why should we shed any blood? Just throw him into this empty cistern here in the wilderness. Then we'll die without our laying a hand on him. Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father.
All right, so he catches up, and as he's arriving, they see him afar off, and like their hatred has got to the point where they're like, let's kill him. Let's just remove this difficulty. Let's remove him from our lives. And so this idea of a mob mentality can cause a group of people to do things which alone they might not seriously entertain to do. Historians and psychologists alike can cite numerous examples of people who were caught up in actions of the mob, only to regret their actions later. Joseph had 11 brothers. At least 2 of them had mixed feelings about the physical harming with the brothers' admittedly hatred. Yet the rest of the brothers fell in line and were willing to murder their own flesh and blood. And so Reuben here, and then we'll look at the last part, the other brother that comes to his rescue. So Reuben has another plan. At first, they're like, let's just kill him, get rid of him, tell the father he was eaten by wild animals, which could be very likely, could happen. And so they're like, we'll put him into basically a dry well, and we'll kill him. And then Reuben says, you know what? Instead of killing him, let's throw him in the pit. And we don't lay a hand on him, intending to rescue him for the father and return him to the father. So Reuben's plan was, you know what? I'm going to try to trick my brothers. We're going to put them into the well, and I'll come back and get them, and I'll bring them back to the father. So he's kind of the hero of the story in this. And so they have this plan, this scheme set up. It must take a lot. Like, it's just hatred to kill somebody else, but another to kill your own flesh and blood in that. So not a whole lot else in here, but the idea or the takeaway for us is, how does jealousy add fuel to a mob mentality? How does jealousy add fuel?
It's like an out of control fire.
Yeah, it could get out of control where the fire thing reminded me, this one time we were burning a bunch of stuff from our house, and not when I was younger with my mom, and she threw a mattress on it, and the mattress it was folded over, and then it caught on fire, and it popped up, and then it hit the grass, and then it was just burning. We're out there with shovels and dirt and everything, trying to do whatever we could to put it out. But that's what it's like. Like, at the beginning, it's just I don't know, it's little, you think it's controlled, and then it just gets away from you. And a lot of criminals, that's what you'll find, is that's their story. They get caught up in the wrong people, and might not be jealousy, but it fuels this mob mentality that we're right, we can do something, we can do this because we're a group of people, where you wouldn't normally do it as a single person or by yourself. But with a mob, you might do things go beyond what you normally would do, or to kind of show how cool you are or how powerful you are or what you can do. You might be the leader of this mob mentality. But what else is the problem with jealousy? I mean, it's a sin, one, but what does jealousy lead to?
Hate.
Yeah, hatred. What else does it lead to?
Covet.
Covet, yes. Jealous of what others have.
Destruction.
Yeah, I mean, and who really suffers from jealousy?
Just the person.
Yeah, the person that's jealous, right? And there's so many of those things that if we just kind of sit back and reflect on, we're just harming ourselves with those type of things. Jealousy is one of those that the other person probably doesn't even know you're jealous of them, or that you want what they have, or you're jealous of the life that they have, or that they have something that you don't have, and so you're jealous of it, so you try to take it, and so now you steal, or you do whatever. And the other people, they don't even know that you're really a problem. I don't know. I'm sure Joseph knew the tension was there between his brothers and himself. But as far as how far their jealousy went, he probably had no clue when he was walking up there that they wanted to kill him, or that they were going to do anything to him. And so jealousy, like sin, will take you further than you want to go, and it's going to keep you longer than you want to be there. And so let's look at the final and how this all plays out in Genesis 37, 23 to 28.
And it came to pass, when Joseph was common to his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm, and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him. For he is our brother and our flesh, and his brethren were content. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt.
All right, so yeah, they put him in the well as they're trying to figure out what to do with them, what they're going to plan, and here comes along the Ishmaelites. Anybody know where this family line comes from? Ishmael, which is Abraham's child that he has with Hagar, and so this is that family tree, this group of people, and the reason why it switches from Ishmaelites to Midianites is they're coming from Midian, and so it's not two different groups of people that are coming through. It's just they're either part of a bigger group of people that come from Midian, or the Midians are a smaller group of the Ishmaelites where they settled and things like that. So either way, it's the same group of people, traders, and they're traveling through, and so they see a gain here. They're like, well, we can make money off this. We can still tell the dad that he died, that he was killed by animals, but his life will be spared. And so Judah kind of, I mean, you can look at both situations of the older brothers that try to be the hero in these, but they're still wrong in what they're doing. And so even in this, Judah's like, well, we'll get 20 pieces of silver, tell the father he'll be gone from us, we won't have this headache, we won't have this problem of our brother anymore. And so that's what they do. They sell him to the Ishmaelites. They take him, who takes Joseph to Egypt for 20 pieces of silver. And the reason why they knew Joseph was coming was because he was wearing his robe. And so they take that robe and they end up put blood on it and bringing it back and saying that he was eaten by wild animals. And so then their father mourns over this. And in this whole story, we just see the dysfunction. And this dysfunction does not start with this family. When you look at the family before and you think about Isaac, what was the dysfunction with that family? Favoritism, right? And so he did it. He saw it, and then he did it to his children. And then what happened with Abraham? He had one child, and he loved him, and then Sarah was like, no, he needs to go. And so you only got one son. His name is Isaac. And so you see the second, or the younger one, always being the one that is ruling over all the others. And so we see this back and forth of dysfunction going on, and it's passed down over and over again. And so I think part of this story and part of what we need to evaluate is our own way that we carry on traditions. There's traditions that happen in our families. We don't even realize that we're in them until we evaluate it. If we don't ever evaluate our lives and what's going on in our lives, we're just going to be kind of not complacent, but we're just going to kind of live, and we won't even know the effects of things that are going on around us that are affecting us. And so we always need to take account of our lives and our relationship with God and things like that. One of the things that you might not have noticed is nowhere in this does it talk about God's plan in any of this, really, besides, like, not even in the dreams does it talk about God in any of this. But we're going to see, starting next week, that God's hand was on Joseph. Even in the midst of all of this, God's hand was on Joseph, meaning that God had a plan for him. And ultimately, since God had a plan, he would achieve that dream that he originally had. How he gets there is not going to be as quick or easy or as simple as Joseph probably thought, or that he would just be like his father and just become the leader of the Israelites, the leader of this nation, the person that God talked to, and then he would be kind of like a prophet to all of God's people. That's probably more of like his train of thought when he sees these dreams and these visions, that this is what it's going to be like, but it's not. It's going to be totally different because God is preparing for his people in the future, a long time down the way, that it's not on the radar of any of the Israelites, that this is what life is going to become, and that they're going to need the Egyptians, and they're going to need other nations to help them because of the famine and things like that in the future. But God sees those pictures and he aligns his plan and his plan and his mission along the way. And so he's putting people in place. And so even today, like wherever you are, you don't know what tomorrow, next year, 5 years down the road looks like. But if you're faithful to the Lord, faithful to him, you can see him start aligning what he wants for you and your life to the same place. And I'm telling you that being and living in that area there's so much peace in it. Even in the midst of whatever trouble is going on in this world or in your life, there's peace knowing that the Lord is working in your life. And so continue to seek him, even through hardship, difficulties, whatever is going on in your life. Just continue to seek him, and sooner or later, you will find him faithful. There might be some things in your life that you never get to see the answer this side of heaven, or why you went through what you did, or why things happened the way they did in your life here on earth. But at the same time, if you stay faithful to him, I think you're going to see the fruit of that. You're going to see him come through. You're going to see a breakthrough in your life as well. And so we close with kind of this last discussion. How might a person grow calloused in their treatment of others? So you don't go from like just being normal, okay, and then ready to kill somebody the next day. How does growing callous in their treatment of others, how might a person grow callous? How does that happen?
If you're around other people who act like that, it's easier for you to.
Mm-hmm.
Start off small, then just kind of goes from there. I think the step one is like who you are around, as she said.
Yes. You think about a callus, like if you work with your hands and that kind of stuff, like you build it up, and at first it's a blister, right? And then it gets a little harder, and then it becomes a blister again, it gets a little harder. And then the next thing you know, it's like, man, you work with your hands, you don't get blisters anymore, because it just builds up over time to the point where it's so hardened that it can't even be affected by things that would, like, I work in the office, so I'm not gonna lie. You give me a rake, and I want to have a bunch of blisters on my hand by the end of the day. But if you get somebody that does that works with that, like they're not gonna have that because it built up the callus over time. And so that's the concept. Like if you go unchecked, the way that you view people or think about people or value people, you're just gonna get callous over time, and you're gonna think they're lesser because of whatever reason. And so don't let that go unchecked. And so in closing, Genesis 37 ends with his brothers dipping Joseph's coat in blood and lying to their father while Joseph is sold in Egypt. They may have thought they were rid of Joseph, but God had other plans. He was at work despite the evil schemes and Joseph's desperation and situation. And so this is what we do with the lesson. These are our application points. Believers should be wise in what they share and with whom. And so just remember that. Make sure, like your aspiration, your dreams, the things that you want to do, things that you think God is doing in your life, share it with people that are close to you, that are going to help you. Believers must guard against following peers bent on hurting others. And so watch out for the people you're around. And then believers must be aware of callous in their own lives. And so it might not be towards other people, but there's other areas of our lives that we can just become callous, or we can become just kind of apathetic towards. And we shouldn't be like that. God is never apathetic towards anything. He cares and loves deeply for all things and all people. And so keep that in check in our lives as well. Anything in closing?
I think what's going on now, like in the world, as far as all of these protests and all of that, I think that at one point people were very empathetic towards Israel. And with what the news keeps sharing, they're not sharing the whole everything. So now you have so many people that are just protesting against what's going on, but they're becoming more callous towards the Jews. It's just sad, and I believe that a lot of it has to do with social media and the news.
Mm-hmm.
And try to tell Cadence, as young as she is, I explained those things to her. She doesn't understand, but I know that she's gonna hear about it at school, so I just talked to her about that. So that's just the perfect example of that there.
It is, yeah. Yeah, there's many levels to what's going on. It's a spiritual level as well as a political and just a nations and things like that. But ultimately, it just shows when you become callous towards a group of people, the hatred, and then and it's not just Muslim and Jews, but it's all people can become like that.
I think it's crazy how all that started out with not trusting the Lord's plan.
Yeah.
Because of Abraham and Ishmael.
Yes, yeah, and there's feuding
Like,
still
if
going
that
on.
wouldn't have happened, the callous and nobody would. I mean, it might be. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it would be very hard to become callous to a group of people that's not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's all because nobody trusted His plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it is still going on to this day. And now you got Christianity mixed into all of that, all kind of fighting for one place, one location in the world, because we know ultimately that's where the return is going to be. And so everything is working towards that place and that time. Yeah.
I think, when we first started going here, like, I think it was Tulsa that shared the dream of Arizona, just to one person here. And somehow that got to Brother Danny, and like the second week we were here, we were in his office. So.
Yeah, I remember when you guys went to lunch with them.
Yeah.
I was like, wonder what's going on here. Cause I was new here and you guys came right after that. So yeah. So that's a good example of sharing a dream and how support can come around you. Cause I'm sure it wasn't the first time you had that dream, and then you guys get to see it, and they're going back again this summer. It's already planning and organizing and things like that. So yeah, very good. Good testimony. All right, let's pray. Our Father, we do thank you for this day, the opportunity to gather together and to look at the life of Joseph. And Father, I just pray that over the next few weeks, as we look at the life of Joseph, we just are reminded of your hand and how the difficulties that Joseph goes through, that your hand is upon him. And when your hand is upon somebody, ultimately, in time, in due time, you're going to bring about everything that needs to happen in that person's life. And Father, I pray that we'd be faithful through all the situations in our lives and all the difficulties and things that we go through, and even the things that we do to ourselves, Father, that you would rescue us from those and place us back on your path towards the good things in our lives and the blessings in our lives and what you would have for us, Father, that ultimately we would serve you in our lives. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.